You're listening to the Galley Table podcast from FlyingIslandPress.com, where we talk about science fiction, fantasy, writing, reading, watching stuff, and an occasional random question just to make it interesting.
Good evening, good evening, good evening, and apparently I'm hosting the Galley Table this evening. I am your lovely host, Gypsy Pirate Laura Nicole. I'm foregoing the rest of my titles to save time. With us on the Galley Table at this very moment, we have our everyday stowaway, Doc Coleman.
Like I am.
And we also have the rapscallion Dark Lord Jeffrey Height.
And I also.
And later on, we will probably have some other crew members come out of their bunks and join us. But tonight we are talking about something near and dear to my heart and my stomach. Food.
Food.
Glorious food.
Jeff, explain.
Very nice of you, Laura. Very, very nice.
At least she doesn't moderate with her mouth full.
So what we're going to talk about is we're going to talk about adding the everyday into your writing so that it doesn't make your characters more real. Can it actually become a distraction? What makes the difference between a distraction and making your characters more real? People like Nathan Lowell, who talk about getting out of the bunk, going into the sand, going and getting food, just the everyday normalcy that became his stories, versus doing it to a point of distraction. So, and that's kind of where we were going with this. So, let's start with some examples. I brought up Nathan Lowell. Does anybody have any other examples that work for them or don't work for them?
Well, I have to point out as a distraction, George R.R. Martin. Every time people sit down to talk over a meal, the talking is the important part, but he goes into this incredibly long description of every single item on the table, and if they were interesting and commonplace items, that helps. I mean, in the first book in Game of Thrones, talking about the Stark girls liking the lemon cakes. That kind of allows you to relate and endears them to you, because most people can figure out what a lemon cake should taste like, and these were particularly good lemon cakes. But when he starts going through this long list of, eel stew and, stuffed whatever from weird places, it loses you, and it drowns the reader in too much of verbiage.
Yes. Laura, do you have any good examples?
No. Basically, my first example of this was actually with Quarter Share, and if you have your bingo cards, make sure that you've dabbed off your Nathan Lowell. And I remember going to, and I've probably talked about this story a million times over, I remember going to the release party for Quarter Chair, Murder at Abaddon Hill, and Stories I Told Myself. So it was Nathan, Patrick McLean, and PG Holyfield. Mm-hmm. And they read each other's stories. And one of them read the scene from Quarter Share where Ishmael makes coffee. And, the reaction was, oh my God, it's coffee porn. And then as I went through I listened to the books because that's how I read, is I listen most of the time. And the way that he described every meal and the time that he took with every meal throughout the books, as far as the emotions that it evoked, as far as, you know, how people reacted to it, it made me feel like this environment in space in the future was not so unrealistic as, you know, as Star Trek is, and they just, whoop, okay, you have a nutritional supplement. You know, it's part of why I really enjoyed Star Trek Voyager's Neelix, because he did take the time to experiment and to cook and to do those kinds of things. And I could go on and on about why Star Trek Voyager is my favorite. Yes, you know, food is a big part. There's also the cleanliness part of different stories, because if you're running through the muck, you know, Jeff and I were military people. If you're running through a muddy terrain, your boots are going to get weighed down by the mud. You're going to feel it, and that's going to be something that, if you're familiar with that scenario, you're kind of like, oh yeah, whatever. But if you're not, you don't understand how much extra weight that can be and how exhausting your feet will be when it's time to rest, or how great a shower will feel when all the grime is taken off. So those kinds of things do evoke emotion if they're done, but not to excess. I'm done rambling now. I need to eat more.
Yeah, there's one example that I can think of, and it wasn't. I keep confusing this series of books with Robin Hobb, and I know it wasn't Robin Hobb that wrote it. But basically, they talked about every morning. They're talking about them getting up and going to the bathroom, and that was actually distracting after a while, because yeah, you know, you get up in the morning, you go to the bathroom, but they did it every day in the book. And it wasn't a detail that was necessary. It was just thrown in there like, it was just a detail that was thrown in there almost to pad, and it really kind of became distracting. And so, yeah, there is a difference, obviously, between just adding details to add details and adding details about life, you know, mundane parts of life to actually add to the story. And I think that there's a balance that you've got to try to find there.
So I have a follow-up question.
Okay.
When you say add to the story, is there emotional context to it? Is it something that is prominent to the actors in that scene? And I say actors because, you know, you've got people that you're watching in the scene, right, or the chapter of the book.
Right.
Is that what makes it pertinent, or is it something else?
I think a lot of it has to do with moving the story forward. We recite Nathan a lot, but when we talk about his books, you know, the big joke about Nathan's books is it's the greatest story that doesn't actually, or where nothing ever happens. Mm-hmm. And that's not true. A lot of things really do happen. And the reality of his story is that his story is about daily life. It's about how a character gets from point A to point B in their life, and it's not, you know, there's no giant heroic act or whatever, but because that is what the story is about, it becomes pertinent to the story. It becomes something that moves the story forward. When you have this big epic battle and these wizards doing duels or whatever, and you stop at the beginning of every day and talk about them going to the bathroom or going and getting food every day, then it becomes not important to the story, and it becomes a distraction.
It really depends on how that particular action fits into with the environment. I mean, the example that you were doing, that if you've got wizards who are fighting some kind of mighty conflict, unless you're going to make a point of an attack happening while they're in the bathroom, it's not really flowing in with the story. But with something like I mean, the reason we keep citing Nathan is because he does such a good job of it. But with the share books, the reason that they talk about food so much is because when you're on a ship and you're out of space, you pretty much have shift, bunk, whatever you come up with for recreation, and food. And
the ship's merry-go-round.
The shift is always the same. The bunk is always the same. The recreation probably doesn't vary that much either. So the big thing that helps you mark time is the food, because the meals are always different.
Right.
Right. So it's like that not only does it help the reader connect with the experience of the characters because it's such a mundane and everyday thing, it also sets the atmosphere for the environment, because that becomes the thing that's important to the characters.
Right.
If you think about it, like Laura said, on Voyager, they had a lot of scenes that were in the mess hall. Because you've got
sometimes to the detriment of the crew.
Yes, but you've got a ship full of people who are trying to travel a journey that they expect to take years just to get home.
Decades.
Yeah. So most of their time is going to be spent in the mess hall. Yes, there's a lot of exciting encounters, but there's also going to be a lot of really boring stretches, because even at warp speed, space is mostly empty. And there's going to be long stretches when you're just not going to encounter anything interesting.
I want to watch Voyager now.
That's good. I'm pretty sure you can pick any of the Star Treks that they've got some kind of scene, either in the mess with people eating, or with the Next Generation. A lot of that was actually social time in 10 Forward Lounge.
Right. Mm-hmm. Exactly. Yeah. All right. So going off this topic, what makes a scene interesting enough, or I guess what makes a scene need something like this? Need the addition of the mundaine to just basically what makes the scene need the addition of the mundaine?
I think a big part of it is to humanize the characters, especially if I'm reading Ministry of Peculiar Occurrences right now, the Janus Affair. And
excellent book.
It's a good book. I'm still trying to find time to finish reading it. But when we go to scenes with the henchman to the villain, there's a part of me that doesn't really want to know more about her, doesn't want to empathize with her. But then they put in these little nuances, a foot getting caught, something like that, and that little inkling of, oh my God, she's actually human, that makes me feel for her just a teensy bit more.
Right.
And I think that's kind of key to a book that's trying to keep you guessing, which is what I feel that all of these Ministry of Peculiar Occurrences books do. And I'm looking forward to finishing this book.
And Zach has joined us. And Zach, what we're talking right now is adding the mundane to your stories to make your characters more human. And I guess the question at hand right now is, when do you decide to add
when does the mundane make the scene?
Yeah, when does the mundane make the scene?
Well, has anybody talked about things like tying in sensory details? I mean, one of the things that I think ties somebody into a scene is when you add as many sensory details as you can, so it's gritty. Like, you're coming into a battle and you feel the the perfect example of this is Gladiator, Russell Crowe. Before every battle, he would stop and he would kind of squat down and he would pick up the dirt and he would kind of feel the dirt, rub it on his hands. He'd make some comment about the dirt. And so if you can describe that kind of thing in your story, take a moment to describe the dirt. You know, what temperature is it? What is your person wearing? Can they see their breath before their face because it's so cold? Are they, you know, do you smell the smoke of a distant campfire, or is it much closer? And is it a good smell? Is it a bad smell? Do you smell the sick scent of fierce sweat coming off of somebody close to you in the battle, and understanding that not everybody's going to make it through this kind of thing? That kind of detail, I think, ties you into a scene. And then you can buy things like, you know, flaming dragons and stuff like that, because you have rooted things in something as simple as a dinner party with unexpected guests.
Right. I mean, if you're in a big battle scene describing the fact that you can smell dysentery coming in from the other camp, and that you know that half the camp is going to be sick, therefore that's why you're going to win the battle. That's an incredible, you know, thing to root. That's a mundane thing, especially for people who are used to fighting wars. But it's a detail that makes everything pop, I guess. They come together.
Right.
See, I was thinking sometimes you want to include elements of the mundane just because that lets you point out how different it is.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Excellent examples of that can be found all throughout Doctor Who. I mean, the simplest, most basic thing is the TARDIS. You know, it says, "What are you doing with this box?" It's like, "Oh, never mind. You know, I'm just going to go in here for a while. It's a box in the middle of nowhere. What are you going to do in there?" It's like, and of course you go into it, and it's not a small box. It's bigger on the inside. When they did the first episode with the Autons, I believe it was Terror of the Autons, and they had the Auton figures. Oh, actually, maybe it wasn't the first one, but they had Auton figures that were dressed as policemen. And of course, they were going around, and their hands were flipping open, and guns were coming out, and they were shooting people. As you do when you're an Auton. That was incredibly terrifying because the police had been in England had been built up to be something that was safe and secure. And in fact, after that episode aired, the police went to the BBC and said, "Please never ever do this on Doctor Who again." Because they've been working very hard to make themselves approachable, and now they just had a children's show go and basically teach kids, watch out, because that cop could be an alien from outer space, will kill you.
Yeah,
but it's still a very good example of how you can take something incredibly ordinary and make it something exceptional.
right. I think the king of doing things like that was Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. Douglas Adams. I mean, his taking of the ordinary and his descriptions and making them absolutely not ordinary. You know, the Vogon ships hung in the sky exactly as bricks do not.
Yes.
Right.
And just taking everything and just completely turning it. He says, here's the normal, and then everything does not act as that, as you would expect. You know, the Italian restaurant is the power for the,
Yeah.
you know,
It's relatively simple to fly. Just throw yourself at the ground and miss.
Right. Exactly. Exactly. So. So I mean, having those mundane details in there, you know, just the fact that bricks do not hang in the air, really made that book more interesting and more, more out there, I guess.
Kind of an instant tie-in.
Yes, exactly. And the whole idea of the cricket game. I mean, when you got to that book, where cricket is this planet, these people that have decided that they're going to destroy the entire universe, and that humans think it's a fun game is just, you know.
And the rest of the galaxy says, "What's wrong with them?"
Exactly. So I mean, things like that, just make it kind of just those mundane things can really kind of make the story more interesting. So.
And that should be a very particularly useful thing to do in horror, because you know, then you take something that's again, that seems very approachable and innocent, and you make it something incredibly creepy. And they've done a number of stories with things like ventriloquist dummies, or even Chucky, with the whole thing with the doll that comes to life and starts killing people.
Right. I'm trying to figure out what Zach's doing with the giant sausage.
I think there's a cat inside it.
Okay.
A very tiny cat.
Which again is mundane. He's going to eat a sausage, cat sausage. I don't know.
Yep. I'd be intrigued by cat sausage.
Stop torturing the poor kitty.
I think the kitty pretty much did it to himself.
Yeah. Yeah, you know, it's especially in horror. I would agree that it is the contrast of the mundane to the terribleness of, or just the horror of what's going on, and that is what helps make that. Wow.
Sorry, kittens. Everything stops for kittens.
Everything stopped for kittens.
It's a kitten.
Oh, it is so tiny. I want to squeeze it and cuddle it and rub it against my face.
This one is Mary. She and I watch anime.
Tom is very confused. Say hi, Tom. Show the kitten. Show the kitten. Yes.
My kittens are bigger than most people's cats. See? Come on. See? Big kitten.
Wow.
My.
But
this has been your Galley Table moment of kitten.
Apparently, that's how, you know, we get ratings, is by showing kittens. So, Zach, thank you for that.
It all depends on how you advertise it, right?
Galley Table, featuring adorable kittens running around on Captain's back.
Yep.
Oh, nice little speech.
There we go. Anyway, I'm sorry. Where were we before I distracted us with mundane details?
Mundane details, actually, and how to use them in your story. I guess probably we should take a look at what not to do when adding the mundane.
Yes.
Well, I guess numerically wise, I think I've heard a rule of thumb that says about 3 details, and you want them kind of in broad brushstrokes. You can take your time and slowly develop something about, the scent of bread wafting over a morning village, and who's really a bad example of this is Neil Stephenson in Cryptonomicon. If you've read Cryptonomicon, there's an entire chapter there devoted specifically to Captain Crunch, the appropriate way to eat Captain Crunch, and the reason Captain Crunch is shaped the way it is, and how the character wants to create a spoon that allows you... Oh my gosh. Ah!
The cat says no more Captain Crunch.
That's right. The cat says no. And how he wanted to create a spoon with refrigerated milk in the handle of it, so he could scoop up the Captain Crunch, inject milk into the bowl of the spoon, and eat it like that. And it was an entire chapter. It was hundreds and hundreds of words. And I'm just like, oh my gosh. That was about the point where I got out of Cryptonomicon.
Yeah.
Great story up to that point.
If you go back and read Moby Dick, there's whole sections that stop the story and talk about the business of whale hunting, about the things that go on the ship, about just incredible amounts of detail that completely take you out of the narrative. Louis L'Amour is another one who does this, talking about how soaking, or the fact that if you get your saddles and whatever wet, and if it's salt water instead of fresh water, you tend to get it tends to break and make it more brittle, and it takes you completely out of the story.
Yeah.
Yep.
It seems to me that if you actually need to go through some kind of detail like that, because you're setting atmosphere, or because this is going to be something that's going to be revisited, and the fact that it's going to be a recurring theme, you only want to go through it in full detail once. You got to be very careful about that you don't bore your reader to death.
Right.
Because it's the first time we're going through this, so we're going through it in detail, so that the rest of the times we can just say, Joe got up and did his morning routine. Well, you don't want to hit people with that and bore them so that they don't read about anything else that Joe does. But you even if you're trying to set out something like that, you've got to keep in mind why you're bothering to tell people in the first place.
Right, exactly. If the rule of Chekhov's gun is, if you're telling them, you've got to have a reason. So those details need to matter. So if you're giving those details, you better plan on using those details for some reason. If you're just giving them just to give them, then they should have been cut.
I wouldn't necessarily go that far, because sometimes you do want to add details to obfuscate which details are important, but you don't want to go overboard with that.
Right.
And sometimes you're adding details because you need to establish a scene.
Right.
Yeah.
Weathering on a building to establish how old it is.
Mm-hmm. So again, the idea is don't over-establish it.
Right. In the middle of your climactic wizard battle, you don't want someone suddenly distracted by that stain on the floor that no one was able to get out because, oh my gosh, some stupid apprentice spilled a vat of acid and floor's just never been the same since. And
Mm-hmm.
Unless something happens and that floor dilapidates underneath the person's feet.
it's like a distraction for a page and a half, and then all of a sudden in comes the magic missile and ends the monologuing. Ba-boom!
From the darkness.
Yeah.
Yep. Mm.
And then comes the arrow out of the gazebo.
Got a +2 dagger against ogres. Anyway, all right, cool.
So, what else are we going to talk about?
Well, it is random question time, though.
Random question time?
You should look at your chat.
I don't care.
Okay. Laura, are you giving us a random question tonight?
No.
You are.
Why would I give the random question? Sure, job.
That's true. All right. Your random question is, name off the top of your head a piece of popular entertainment you're looking forward to that should be out within the next 12 months.
Oh.
It's not even the top one. Just something you're looking forward to that you've seen a trailer for, that you've seen a commercial for, that you've heard is coming out. What is it? If you know when it's coming, when is it coming? What do you like about it?
Okay. I just saw this trailer today. And I'm not even sure when it's coming out, but I think it's actually coming out in the fall sometime. And at first I thought it was a movie, but now I think it's actually supposed to be a TV series. It's called Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
That's a TV series.
Yes, and it's of course for those who are listening or watching this who haven't seen it, it is a Marvel Entertainment production, and it is an offshoot of the Avengers and all the other superhero movies, where you've got S.H.I.E.L.D., which is like the Supreme Homeland something. It's like apparently.
Yeah.
So apparently the name was chosen by someone who wanted to make sure that the initials spelled out shield. But and instead of following the superheroes, it basically follows the agents who go around either trying to deal with supers or trying to recruit them.
Awesome.
So it looks like this is going to be a really excellent vehicle for Marvel to introduce a whole lot of characters from all of their various books without having to dedicate a whole movie to it, and establish some characters that they can bring into later movies.
Yeah.
It brings back Agent Coulson. So,
I have theories about that.
Yep.
That he never died?
Life model decoy established in the Avengers itself. Look it up. It's Google. Google it.
Was that established in Avengers, or was that established in one of the Iron Man movies? Because I know it was Tony saying, it's like, this is Tony Stark's life model decoy, because he didn't want to talk to somebody.
Tony Stark, and he's saying that because it's Coulson calling him at the beginning of the Avengers.
Okay. You remember it better than I then.
Anyway.
But
this Agent Coulson could be a life model decoy, or it could have been a life model decoy that died. Who knows?
Mm-hmm.
Awesome.
Anyway. But
Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. All right.
Looks excellent.
That reminds me very much of one of the things that I really like best about the Mercedes Lackey stuff that Veronica Jaguar is working on, and the fact that you've got now my brain is just completely scattered, but the plainclothes detective that works with them, Ramona.
Yeah.
Ramona, and she just makes the characters that much more, the superhero characters that much more alive to me, and I think that's really cool.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so we're going to set the Wayback Machine to 2002. And the thing that I'm most excited about coming out is this new series from Joss Whedon called Firefly. And I don't know anything about it, but I think it's going to be excellent because it's got Nathan Fillion in it. And, you know, he's kind of an unknown guy, but, you know, I think it'll be fun. I think it'll be a lot of fun. So
I don't know, man. I hear it's coming out on Fox, and they just have this tendency to kill really good shows.
That's true, and they'll build things out of order and preempt them for MLB and all kinds of crazy stuff.
Yeah, I'm just hoping that it'll work out. Okay, so reality time. Back to current day. I don't care what anybody says about the controversy. I'm looking forward to Ender's Game. And as much as I'm scared that they're going to change the book too much, I am looking forward to going to seeing that. I mean,
Ender's Game is still the book I give people who say they don't like science fiction.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. Laura?
Well, I've already got a date for this one. December 2013. The Hobbit, Part 2.
Desolation of Smaug.
Yes. The reason being is that for some reason Peter Jackson really likes the Kilted Men, and always puts out movies on or around his birthday. So yeah, that's my date, and that's what I'm really looking forward to seeing because I have no other reason other than Thorin, not a dwarf, but goddamn so pretty.
You know, I really honestly always thought of the dwarves as being semi-comical characters until I saw this interpretation of them.
Yeah.
And seeing Thorin stand up at the end of the movie when the orcs are coming in, and the flames behind him, and the whole dramatic pose and jump, that was awesome. And I was like, okay, now I have to completely reassess my feelings about dwarves.
Yeah. See, I missed The Hobbit in the theaters, so I still haven't seen it. But I have to admit, I can definitely get behind anything that makes women appreciate stocky, bearded men.
I have the Kilted Man sporting a very rugged beard, and hopefully he will continue to grow it out so that I can make it an epic dwarf beard.
Very good then. But he's got to go in costume. All right. Well, that leaves me, and I just saw an ad for this today. Should be coming out about the same time as Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., but it's J.J. Abrams' new series, Almost Human. And the reason I like it is because of Carl Urban. Yeah, Carl Urban's got a new TV show coming out this fall. Fox.
Oh, that makes me wish I had cable.
Didn't you just tell me Fox was bad?
Fox is bad, but
it's Carl Urban. Sorry, I might have drooled a little bit there.
See, the problem is that Fox goes and gives well-written sci-fi shows that otherwise wouldn't get a chance. It gives them a chance. And then it cruelly takes them away because the executives don't like science fiction for some
it gives them half a chance.
Yeah.
And this is J.J. Abrams. So
14.
We'll see.
Yeah, 14.
And Fringe. Fringe is a Fox show, and that's been running for some time, so.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's not exactly science fiction.
Parallel dimensions?
It's more science fantasy.
Oh, there you go. Speaking of which, aren't we supposed to be getting a Star Wars TV series sometime?
Wasn't
What?
that Clone Wars?
No, live action one. I'm not sure if that's still in the offering.
I thought Disney killed that.
I must have missed that memo.
I missed that one too.
There was supposed to be one. I think it was going to be like no Jedi and broadly based in some kind of time travel thing. I didn't understand it. I was just like, oh, okay, but no. Anyway, okay then.
Alrighty, so Laura, I'm taking over your job for a minute. Let's go around the table and talk about what we're working on, what we're not working on, and go from there. So, Doc.
What I'm working on. I'm still doing revisions to the Perils of Prague in order to try to get it ready for beta readers. I'm also sort of piecemeal working on my young adult novel, The Bright Lands, and in a fit of desperation for something that I could write quickly in order to keep my writing chain alive. I started a new sci-fi novel. It's actually, you could consider it a sci-fi superhero novel, as you've got a bunch of humans and metahumans in space searching for new places for the human race to live. And I don't have a good title for that, so I'm just calling it Metas in Space. But that's a horrible, horrible title, and I'm not going to keep it. But I got So is this episode going to come out before Balticon?
Yes, it is.
So I am going to be a guest at Balticon. So if you're going to be in Hunt Valley, Maryland, and you're going to be at Balticon, be sure to look me up.
Excellent. Laura.
I am working on things that are not audio or blogosphere or anything related. Namely moving and getting married. But I will also find myself at Balticon for a limited time only. I will be there on Sunday, all day Sunday. So, if you see me, say hi, because I'll say hi back, and, you know, we can be friends or something.
Limited time, you're making yourself more valuable by limiting your time there.
Well, I will be doing Galley Table Live.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. I am working on a new story that I will hopefully have out before Balticon. It is based on a interesting little tweet that I saw that Supernatural Socks is the working title. It should be kind of interesting. I am also trying to spread the word about this very interesting book called The Mad Scientist's Guide. It is The Method to the Madness, a guide to the super evil, where elder mad scientists are giving their knowledge to younger mad scientists. And I think it's pretty darn good. It's I happen to know one or two of the editors, and they worked very hard on it. So if you want to go out and buy that, you can find it on Amazon or on my website, which is jeffreyhyde.com, or on Five Rivers website. So
look at the modesty on that guy. Hey.
Shameless plug.
Shameless plug. I certainly will. Shameless plug. That leaves you, Zach.
Well, I suppose now's the time to announce officially that I'm stepping down as managing editor of Flagship and Flying Island Press, and will be hopefully doing a lot more blogging and stuff on my own site. It's been a lot of fun. I've enjoyed and cherished the time that I've had with you guys and with FIP, and I'm not falling off the planet, but I'm at a point where I need to refocus my energy in a couple of other areas, and that's where I'm headed. So,
And you will be missed.
Yeah.
thank you.
And Zach, we wish you the best of luck in that, and hope that that you'll come back from time to time, maybe as a guest on Galley Table.
Absolutely.
If not, I
Hey,
can
Zach,
show you
can I borrow your cat? There's totally a mouse, like, in the basket right next to me.
Oh. Kill it!
You're a little too small to be good mousers at this point, and I don't know what the shipping rate is.
Yeah.
All right, so this has been Galley Table. We will join you again the next time from Balticon Live.
So be sure to be there, and if you see us around, give us a holler, tell us how much you love us, and we'll say, yay, thanks. I can't let you end the podcast. I have to end the podcast. I started it. Gosh darn it. So, thanks again for listening to Galley Table, and have a good night.
Good night.
Good night, folks.